I'm Allie. Join me as we create the Rotterdam Bracelet based on 2 rows of right angle weave. It is oh so simple, can be used with any sizes, but if you want the exact ones from the video, go ahead and look below the video. In the description of the video, there is a link to get back to our website where we have everything listed out for you so you can create your own. Gather up your materials and let's get started. So to begin this bracelet, we are going to build foundations of 2 rows of right angle weave. My sample piece here, I have 11 OC beads along with 3mm bugles, bicones, and pearls. We're going to be switching to 4mm and we're using 8 OC beads. That makes it go a little bit faster and it's going to create a little bit bigger of a design. I've been doing this with a lot of bracelets lately, making a smaller version and kind of a bigger version, showing you the difference. So the first thing we need to do is 2 rows of right angle weave. If you've never done right angle weave, never fear, I'm going to teach you. You have a stop bead on the base of your thread. I'm using green thread to kind of match into my gold beads. And I have 4 beads that I'm going to put and go down next to a stop bead. Stop bead is a bead that's coming off the project that you loop the thread around. I'm going to sew back through beads 1, 2, and 3, starting from bead 1, going through 2, then 3, and exiting prior to bead number 4. This is going to create my first little block of right angle weave. And when you're looking and kind of creating that first little block of right angle weave, it's not going to sit exactly right, but as you form and keep going, you'll get it more and more that it sits straight. Every time now, we are going to add 3 beads. Our thread is currently coming out of the right side of our little box that we've created here, and it's coming out the bottom. 3 beads get added, and we're going to sew into the top of that same bead the thread is coming out of. From here, we need to get over to the right-hand side. So we're going to sew through the bottom bead, following the thread line, and then out through the bead on the right. At the end of each unit, I give a little tug to tighten it up, and that's your second right angle unit. Your thread is currently coming out the top now. 1, 2, 3 beads get added on. You're going into the bottom of that rightmost bead from the last unit. Once you get there, we always need to get over to the right side of the unit to be able to build on more units. So this time, since the thread is coming out the top, we're going to go through the top bead, and then once again, out the right-hand side. You'll notice with the right angle weave that every single block of right angle that you're doing, or every unit, turns opposite. So this one is coming out the bottom, the last one was coming out the top. One before bottom, one before top. 3 beads go on, go into the opposite side of the bead your thread is currently coming out of. Sew along the project, either bottom if your thread's coming out towards the bottom, top if it's coming towards the top, and then out and exit the right-hand side of this raw unit. Go ahead and create 2 matching strips of this right angle weave stitch, and then we're going to seam them together because all we're going to do is sew through, adding our center line. Once you have your 2 strips of your right angle weave done, it's time to seam them together. As we seam them together, we're going to be catching on to the beads that right now the holes sit, that they're facing up and down in the right angle weave, and we're going to be adding beads in between. You can do this obviously with different beads, the same bead I have on bugles here, and then 3mm crystals as well as pearls, and we're adding an extra 11 OC bead. At the end here, I have my custom Infinite Potomac's clasp with jet, since I'm using jet beads, and I'm coming out of my last bead towards the middle. If it's coming out towards the bottom, just flip it in your hand. I'm using 2 8 OC beads, picking up my cabochon and my clasp, sewing through that, 2 more 11 OC beads, and then see this end bead here, I'm sewing through the end bead. And that holds the clasp together. We're going to reinforce, but first we're going down through the side bead on the section that was at the top. We're going to come down the bead that sits with the holes up and down. And these vertical beads here are what we are going to add our beads in between. We're going to add 1 8 OC bead, 1 4mm bicone, 1 8 OC bead. From here, you're going to match it up. So look at the next right angle unit, find the bead that's also sitting vertical, sew through that, and that adds your beads in the middle. Now I have thread on this side that I'll come back and I'll reinforce. So now we're just going to continue on down the line. So to continue on down the line, I'm going to sew down through the bead that's on the side. That sits horizontal. And then I'm going to sew up the vertical bead and out. Coming out that vertical bead, an 8/0 seed bead goes on, a 4mm crystal, an 8/0 seed bead. If you're using 11/0s, again, 11/0 seed bead, 3mm crystal, 11/0 seed bead. You can get longer if you want to, but you want to make sure that you stay skinny here kind of at the end. Go over to the next right angle unit that sits opposite. Pick the one that the holes are facing vertical. Sew into it. And that's it. It is so simple to do this design. Here at the top, go across the top, down the vertical bead, add in your next 8/0 seed bead, next 4mm crystal, 8/0 seed bead. If you want it to sit further apart, you could add 3 crystals, 4 crystals. Go down to the bottom piece, next right angle weave where you have the bead that sits on the vertical, and sew in. So simple to do and so easy yet so pretty. On the side here, if you want to, you can add in 11/0 seed bead for a little extra flair. I'm keeping it nice and simple, going in and just connecting the sides. Again, 8/0, 4mm, 8/0, up through the next vertical bead. Once you get to the end of the project, it's the exact same as the beginning. I'm running out of thread here in the middle, so I'm just going to let that hang out there. I still need to add one more bicone, but I have plenty of thread and needle on this one here, and I can connect them all together, so I'll show you how to do that in case you run into the same problem. 2 of my 8/0s go on. I make sure that my clasp is sitting upright, so that way it will clasp in correctly to the other side. Then I go in, add 2 more of my 8/0 seed beads, back to my starter bead there, and go through that lining up parallel. From here, going down through the side, and my stop bead's there, so I'll go in and I'll tie my thread off at that location. Coming down this interior here. And remember, I still had 1 more to go. And of course, I need 2 more of my beads here. Adding a bead in, my 4mm, and my bead. So you can always work backwards if you need to. Going into that last bead there. My thread is coming out right there along the side. So I'm going to go back into the design, tie off a knot here. After I tie off that thread there, I'm going to work my way back to the end here. Taking my thread and needle, working back down the design through the end here. And this is my opportunity then to reinforce the clasp as well. So I'll work back up through here, along the right angle weave. You don't need to think about it too much. Go back through that middle bead there, back up along the side, just like you've been doing. That's thread out of there. Back up to the end here, reinforcing, going back through that seed bead line, the clasp, and right over to the end. Right over there at the end, we're going to loop around 1 more time, getting a 3rd strand through the clasp area. It's always good if, I like to do 3 strands going through the clasp. I think that's nice to really reinforce it. Going through what looks like the 6 beads at the end. The 2 from the right angle unit are at the top and the bottom, and then the 4 beads are in the middle. I'm going to take off my stop bead or my starter bead. Take those thread ends, tie them into a knot. Right over left, left over right. Take the needle and thread that's still connected. Go down into the project a little bit, pulling that knot kind of in towards the interior of a bead, And then I'm going to take my thread burner, my thread zap, burn down all of these thread ends nice and short, and then straight to the project. Once you have all those thread ends burned down, you can see how easy and simple it is to create this and basically seam it together. You can do all different sizes, all different shapes of beads in the middle. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that in the interior, your middle bead can't be wider than one of your right angle units. I can't wait to see all of your different varieties, and comment below if there's anything that you tried and the different stitch ideas that you did also in that comment section. Thanks so much for joining me in creating the Rotterdam bracelet. I think that the infinite clasp really sets it off well, and you'll probably want to make a ton of them. Can't wait to see all of your pictures of your Rotterdam bracelet in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Make sure to join if you haven't yet, right after you hit subscribe here to this channel. You don't want to miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, Potomac Beaders. If you need any materials, remember it's listed below the video in the little link there, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.